vlog astrology in the news. And today I'm going to be talking about a couple of things. I decided to run the election chart for California, what's going on at the day of the election, and I think you're going to like that. But first, I wanted to take a look at Charles Krauthammer. Let's see, if you're not familiar with Charles Krauthammer, he was a major conservative commentator, was on Fox News a lot, and I forgot the publications that he worked for. I just kind of saw him and I'm like, wow, this dude looks like a turtle. I mean, because he kind of does look like a turtle. But anyway, I'm sure he's a great guy. He was in a wheelchair, and I did not know that he was in a wheelchair from a diving accident in college, actually. I thought he had some sort of degenerative disease or something like that, and therefore he was in the wheelchair and he naturally died of that, but I was completely wrong. So let's take a look at Charles Krauthammer's chart. So, of course, we do not have the actual birth time. So what we're going to try to do is use the moon as the ascendant. So just so everybody knows, there is a caveat with solar charts. A solar chart is a chart that you run from noon on the day that somebody was born. First of all, it renders the Vimshatoria dasha. It puts it off enough that it makes that unreadable. So what we can do is we can actually take a look at some of the conjunctions and aspects of somebody's chart, however, and get a good idea of how that might have affected them. So like, for instance, like we talk about transits right now, his Venus right here is being transited by Mars and K2, and Mars is pretty much standing still here on his Venus. Actually, it's almost close to going retrograde. Mars is going retrograde at about 15 degrees of Capricorn, and geez, it's actually 4 days, man. I mean, it's that close. So what I would take from that is either Venus could be the 8th lord or Mars is the 8th lord, one of the two. So that would make him either, let's see, I would put him either in here in Aries and Taurus or Capricorn or Scorpio. So knowing him, geez. Well, he also does have something also too that you can see in a lot of conservatives' charts. The Sun and Saturn are opposite each other. And when the Sun and Saturn are in each other's signs, or they're in like signs that are opposing each other. So like John McCain has his Sun over here in Leo and his Saturn over here in Aquarius. It's just that Krauthammer has these reversed, and it produces a Mahaparivartana yoga depending on where the ascendant is. So I would actually feel comfortable saying that he was probably in Aries taking a look at this. So, but that's just a guess. But I pulled it up for noon, and that just put his ascendant right here in Gemini. So let's just say he is in Aries. That actually puts us all in the 10th house here too. So anyway, I'm looking at other transits. So his Mercury was in Aquarius here, and then Jupiter was actually in a pretty difficult position. His Jupiter was just over here in the sign of Aquarius. So it actually takes it out of debilitation. So if it were at least 0.6 degrees back, it would actually be in the sign of Capricorn, which is a sign of debilitation for Jupiter. And so, I mean, you really, when you see somebody with a debilitated planet, you have to be very careful to look at other factors like aspects, the Navamsha, and things like that. So when we're taking a look at his, we look at Jupiter, it's in Aquarius. We look at this Saturn here. This is kind of difficult because Saturn is aspecting it, but the Sun, who owns the sign of Leo, is in the Saturn sign. So this does create like a mutual exchange. So this tends to make that exchange stronger, and this elevates Jupiter a little bit. So that kind of gives it a little bit of extra strength. But I'll tell you one thing, this aspect is tough. People like this have to fight hard. They tend to be very moral and very mature too. So if you ever watched Krauthammer speak, he had a very mature, straightforward, blunt form of delivery. And you see this with that aspect. Let's see, other things that we could draw from this, not too much. He does have a retrograde Mars and K2 here. You take a look at this, I wouldn't be surprised. You know what? Take a look at this. This natal conjunction right here in this house is actually aspecting, not exactly K2's aspecting, but this conjunction is actually going on right now in this house. So I would not be surprised if he actually had his accident during a transit of some sort of planet over Virgo here. So I haven't really run back the clocks, but that would seem like more of a Saturn transit to me. All right. Moving on, the summer of Spazz continues. Oh my God, everybody's emoting and emotions rule the day and logic just doesn't matter anymore. And I bring up the migrant children crisis because this photo goes out on Twitter 3 weeks ago. And of course, on Monday, I shit you not, on Monday, the media goes wall to wall to wall coverage with this stuff. And the thing is, this photo's from 2014. I live in Arizona. These like detention centers have been for here for at least 4 or 5 years. I think it's at least 4 years. There's one down in Nogales that people were complaining about in 2015, and now all of a sudden the media is basically trying to make this an issue. And I'll tell you, people, in this age of information, we have to be very, very careful about vetting where our information comes from, because with this Uranian transit through Aries, Uranus and it kind of rules the internet, and how we manage information is in its sign of Aries. It's very aggressive. It's very impulsive. It doesn't really like to, and Uranus is like that just in life. But when you put in the sign of Aries, it gives it extra kapow. And Uranus actually ruling, I think it rules the internet and things and how we see information. We see this stuff blowing up, and we're seeing right now the reorganization of how society gets its information. Everything is being restructured. So what's going on is people are confused, people are running on, and don't think that when we see stuff on the internet, this is ironic because you're watching things on the internet. Even take me with a grain of salt, dude. Double check my stuff. Do it. That's what I always advocate for in astrology. We need to be collaborating more. So anyway, so what we have here is people just working on this raw, visceral emotion, and has a lot to do with Uranus squaring Mars too, because Mars is exalted and Mars is slowing down. So on the 26th, man, it's going to go retrograde, conjunct K2, and this is going to intensify. So be wary that we're going to see a lot more stuff like this, and a lot of this seems to be, for me, it seems to be tied to this square specifically. So this is the mundane chart that we have going on here. And so you see Uranus here is working its way through Aries. It's been in Aries now for about, what has it been, like a year. And then we also got some other difficult aspects going on too. So first of all, we have Rahu and Venus here in Cancer. Oh my God, Venus in Cancer is emotions to the extreme. The only place that's stronger is going to be here in Pisces. I'm not going to say Libra, because Libra's got more of a balancing effect and it's an air sign. Libra is Venus's home sign, but when it's in here in Cancer, it's kind of in detriment because, and it's conjunct Rahu too, so the emotions and the passions and all this stuff are just flowing like water. This is also 2 square Uranus, and look, this is aspecting that stationary Mars. Look at this. This Venus is opposed to the stationary Mars. I took this chart so this was happening this week. I actually took this chart about 25 minutes ago, and so this transit was happening, and people are going crazy. I mean, literally the emotions are being ramped up to an extreme. So basically what I'm telling to you is you can't really sacrifice the long term. Be careful not to really buy too much into the given moment, because a lot of this stuff is transient. So, and then we all get kind of hooked. We get our emotional hooks into things, and well, yeah, that's my handshake. Hey Kevin, you're doing a great job. Now we get our emotions into things, and things get convoluted. So this is just my warning. This is my warning to everybody. People really need to chill the hell out, because this is going to get much worse. Okay, so don't be surprised if we see this lead to some sort of bad conclusion at some point. I can't say exactly what, but I've already seen what's been happening this week, and it's just going to get a lot more difficult. So, all right, sorry, I really wish I had better news on that, but this is going to be the summer. This is going to be probably the fall too. This doesn't end until Mars goes into the sign of Aquarius, so this is really dependent on the election. So I'm going to be showing you the election chart. So, by the way, so like I said, the segueing into this, the election chart, California breakup, it looks very, very likely. I picked this map. There's a 3-state solution, but if this resolution actually does go through, there's going to be a lot of haggling about how they're going to really try to divide up the state of California. And take a look at this transit chart. Oh my God, this does not bode well for California. So this on the inside here is the state of California. California was actually formed when Uranus and Pluto were conjunct in Aries in 1850. That's crazy. This is when we started seeing the birth of the abolitionist movement, and that kind of led to the Civil War. But check this out. Transiting Uranus right here is creeping up on this conjunction. So they're actually going through their second Uranian return. I didn't really look at the first one to see what might have happened, but so that would have been roughly around the Depression time. So I can't think of an event off the top of my head that would have correlated with this. But my whole point is that this Uranian transit in Aries is probably going to put a high pressure on this. And then if you take a look opposing it, see we have the moon down here. Well, my menu came back up here. So we have the moon coming to a return on that day, opposed Uranus. Okay. That's also a very revolutionary aspect. And then take a look at this. We got the mundane Pluto squaring this as well. So yeah, this really looks like a very high likely chance of California getting broken up. Trying to take a look at other aspects, but just these outer planets alone and their aspect, and then the moon. The moon is very telling in elections because it's a very fast-moving planet, and a lot of people don't really make up their mind until that day. Well, on this particular day, Uranus. Okay, so Uranus is going to be very close to the conjunction of that natal Uranus-Pluto, and it's also going to be opposed to the moon. And also, too, it looks like Venus is going to be thrown in there. And also, too, Venus is going to be retrograde in the sign of Libra. So Venus isn't going to really be functioning like Venus functions. So, yeah. So Venus is actually going to be functioning like it's in Aries. So it's not exactly a conjunction, but you kind of get this. This chart looks... Yeah, this California, I think, is going to break up. I think this looks very, very likely. So if you live in California, keep your eyeballs on this one and then get out. I'll tell you what, if you live in California, go out and vote for this, because why not make an astrologer right? Oh, no, I'm just kidding. All right, so if you want to book a consultation with me, all the great links are on the front page. Facebook, book a consultation, all that stuff. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope everybody has a great, chill weekend. Have a great one.